Hello, my beautiful truth and love loving friends, maybe self love loving friends. I started a little video yesterday that didn't quite go where I thought it was going to go, but I think it's still an important one because it is so important that we really get the basics down, how to love ourselves, where we need to go, what we need to meet in ourselves and embrace or get a very different relationship to. Because that's really what it is, isn't it? There's a part of us that just has this terrible relationship with who we are. And we stay in that relationship. That's crazy. We probably all, or most of us, have been in a dysfunctional relationship at some point in our life or an unloving relationship with somebody. And it takes time sometimes to get out of it because we get stuck, we get attached, we live in hopium that it's going to get better, all these things, and we stay in something that we know is not good for us, and then we finally get out and we go, what was I thinking? And I want to just compare that to the relationship that we have with ourselves. And it's a very important relationship because we are with ourselves 24/7. And if we are not being loving and kind and gentle, um, connected to ourselves, what kind of a life is that? We suffer, we're unhappy, contract, um, we're in pain, we're depressed, we're angry, right? Because there's this constant inner insanity going on. And it really, really does not have to be that way. I promise you, because I've been there. The reason I became a self-love mentor, or at least call myself a self-love mentor and an embodiment whisperer, is because I lived that horror. I had a horrible relationship with myself, very down on myself and critical and judging myself and hating myself. And I didn't know it could be any other way. I really, really had no clue that, first of all, that it was possible. And second of all, well, how do you do it? And then as life kind of softened me and matured me, I started seeing that I don't want to be I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to treat myself like that anymore. And then, of course, that's when you start the deepening process to meet every part, every layer, every aspect of ourselves with love. And that's when I became a self love mentor because I realized that this is probably more important than anything. Here we are doing our spiritual work, going to spiritual retreats, silent retreats, meditate, but underneath it all, there is somehow we have cut ourselves off from our own core, from our own beingness. And then we just ignore that, and then we live a life here, and then we're hoping to build something out of that, but it's going to crumble because it doesn't have the foundation. And that is one of the reasons that I um, chose to act in a role as a self-love mentor, to really start building that ground that has been missing for most of us. So the invitation is always to choose to have a new relationship with yourself. And yesterday I touched in on just the beginning steps of how to do that. And again, like yesterday, I highly recommend that you go and check out my playlist about self love because there are so many, many videos, the how-tos, just little steps and little gems here and there that will help you with that. And I can promise you that if you really take this on as a committed practice, your life is totally going to change. Everything inside of you is going to change. It doesn't mean it necessarily happens overnight. It doesn't mean you won't run into issues again. There's many layers, and we can't just pull them all out in one swoop and be done with them because most of them are unconscious. And that's why we need to make it a practice to every time when we notice that we are not honoring when something in us says yes, we go, no. Have you ever done that? I have. Or if something in us says no, we say yes. So we ignore the foundation of what is true for us, what matters to us, our soul expression, our beingness. We simply ignore it and squash it. And then we go out in the world hoping we're going to find it there, and we won't. Well, we may for, a period of time, but it's not going to be satisfying because you're the only thing that will ever satisfy us and where we feel at ease, where a lot of that anxiety can start melting away, is when we feel comfortable in who we are, in who you are, in who I am. That's where the comfort lies. That's where the peace lies. And I promise you, this is something we all long for more than anything. So if you take your time to find out what it is inside that wants something, that's the longing. I talk about it all the time. It's not something that should be squashed or ignored or talked out of. No, it is something we need to meet with a lot of kindness and curiosity and love. That is what I consider self-love, to really honor our soul's movement in this world, what it wants to experience, what it wants to express. Now, I know because of the conditioning and the programming, very much also the religious conditionings, it's not okay to want something for yourself. And that's, of course, why we have truncated that longing, that movement of what we really want. And under that, what you want is being who you are. There's nothing else to want. And the reason we want this is because we have cut ourselves off from it. So we walk around, half or we can never be fulfilled because the fulfillment that we already are is being truncated, suppressed, squashed, pushed away. We have to come to that deeper inner felt sense of what we deeply long for, of what we deeply want. It's fine also to want, the surface things, but that's never going to satisfy you or fulfill you. Only one thing will, and that is when you drop down and honor what is the movement of what you really want. Many times we will say something like, I want a relationship because I want to feel loved. I want enough money so I can feel at peace. I want to be successful in my work so I feel maybe confident or it's fulfilled again, or I feel I'm on purpose. I'm feeling I'm doing the right thing. So everything we want out there is because we are hoping that having or getting or experiencing that will give us that sense of peace, of feeling loved, feeling fulfilled. That's why we want that. The things out there, they won't do that, but it's kind of a belief that having that will give us something deep inside of us, and it will it will to a certain point because we have natural needs that all need to be met. So again, there's nothing wrong with it, but please do never ignore the deeper longing. That is not selfish. That is basically the divine knocking at your door, knocking at your heart, saying, can you feel me? And you feel this longing for something, and you don't know what it is. So you go out there and look for it, and you're not going to find it. And you keep looking and you keep trying this and that, and there's still this like, no, there's something here, right? And the divine goes, I'm here. Can you feel me? And then at a certain point you go, what is this feeling in here? What is that? And that's when you start turning around and you start getting curious about this feeling, this longing, this energy. And instead of trying to find something out here so you won't feel this, now you go like, well, what is this? And then you turn in and then you start feeling it. And that can take time for most of us because we have been so cut off from it that it's going to take a while to get used to, well, what is it? What is this? It's a great way to spend the rest of your life, if I may say so. Because once you do, then you realize, I just want, and then you say what it is: peace, divine connection, God connection, connected to myself, feeling loved deep inside, feeling at peace, feeling okay. Actually, that's a big one too, feeling okay, because most of us don't feel okay because we have left the place inside of us where we are always feeling okay. So then you start taking the time to learn to listen deeply, curiously, kindly, to really find out, what is it that I want? What is going on in here? And then little by little, it starts unfolding. And then you have to move through all these layers, or so you can't have that, you're to this, you're to that, you're selfish, that's a stupid thing, you're not allowed to want anything, you're supposed to be there for others, which is just happens automatically when you're here. You don't try to be there for others, you don't try and help others. It's just natural. There's no thinking about it. It's just like, of course, because this moves like that. So that's when you start moving through the layers and you can begin to go like, I really want this or that. And you really let yourself feel that. You go here and you stay there and you learn to listen so that this feeling that we call longing, right? It feels like I'm longing for something, I'm wanting something. Yeah, it's because you feel the divine in you. You feel your true nature. You feel that. And the longing that what we call longing is because we want to be pulled back there. It's like we've moved so far away from ourselves. This is stirring now. We can feel it. And that's why more and more people go like, I just want to go home. I just want to be, connected to the divine again. I just want to really be with myself. I want to spend more time alone. It's all good stuff. That's the only way you're going to connect back, start trusting it, learn your soul's language through kind of a felt sense or energy where you go like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And that's the language that I live by and endeavor to live by more and more. That's what I love to help my clients find, because I would think that those who come to me for support is because that is what they want. And that's what I love the most to work with because it is so delicious when somebody really just taps back in and go, oh, and then little by little, we can start moving in our own flow. So that's funny. There's another good reason for the self-love, right? To really listen. And even though I was planning to continue with what I thought I was going to start yesterday, it didn't happen. And I really love that that happens that way because I'm surrendered to the flow and I trust the flow knows exactly what needs to be spoken, what needs, what is being pulled out of me, whoever wants to receive that. So, my friends, maybe tomorrow I will talk about what I thought I was going to talk about yesterday. This is how it works. When you just go here, you kind of bypass all this should, shouldn't, can't, not good, blah, blah, blah. You just bypass it and you just go with the flow and then you see what happens. So, we'll see what happens. Please like, share, subscribe if you want, and please comment below maybe what happened to you by listening to this. I'll see you again soon.